Hello， 大家好，我是加拿大持牌移民顾问 Daisy， 现在生活在哈利法克斯。我们都知道，2025年移民的关键词之一就是紧缺。我们做了一系列的关于紧缺职业的节目。今天呢，我们是来到一个哈法的急救学校，来采访一下急救学校招生的负责人，给大家介绍一下，如果你想做一个急救员的话，需要满足什么样的一些条件，以及这个学校能给大家带来一些什么样的帮助。Hi everyone, my name's Daisy. I'm from All Immigration, and today we're at the Medavi Health Ed Institution in Halifax, Nova Scotia. This institution is the only one in Nova Scotia provide paramedic program. We're very glad to have Melissa join us today. Hi Melissa, could you briefly introduce your role in this institution?
Sure. So this is Medavi Health Ed in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. And as Daisy said, my name is Melissa. I'm the admissions lead here at Medavi Health Ed. So I currently take care of all admissions. I do have another admissions advisor, but I solely take on the admissions for international students. I have worked here for 4 years, and I know all the ins and outs of the job and your future career. I have worked with international students in the past. I worked at an English language college for 5 years, so I have lots of experience working with international students from all different countries, all different backgrounds, and I'm really excited to hopefully work with some of you.
We come to the right person.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because we have lots of international students who are interested in it's called Primary Care Paramedics PCP program in Nova Scotia. So how does it align with Nova Scotia healthcare needs? And why do you think the institution is attractive to international students?
I think that one, our program is a little attractive to international students because we were just added onto the international graduates in demand stream, which is a wonderful stream for international students to, kind of go through in order to receive permanent residency, which is really great. And Nova Scotia is in need of paramedics. It's just like every other province here in Nova Scotia. We're just lacking paramedics due to the high demand, especially over COVID when everything happened. It just kind of awoken everyone to realize how we need to kind of revamp our healthcare system, and a part of that is paramedics. Lots of paramedics are retiring or taking leaves and things like that, and so it's really important that we continue to get paramedics, and that's a really good opportunity for international students who want to come to Nova Scotia and to kind of live here long term.
Okay, so how bad the need is?
I would say it's pretty dire. It's gotten better, obviously, since COVID. It's been a couple of years now, and we've been able to enroll a lot of students into new careers here in the province. But we're still in need all over the province of Nova Scotia, especially in more of the rural communities.
Okay.
When international students come to Canada, they're not always set on a specific place, which is kind of good for them because they're willing to kind of move to those rural communities. Whereas people who kind of, domestic students say if they grew up in Halifax, they want to stay in Halifax.
Right.
So that's another good opportunity for international students to take those kind of jobs out in more of the rural communities.
So you are working with the admission office here. So can you tell us the key requirements for international students to be enrolled at the institution?
Absolutely. So the requirements are very similar to a domestic student, except for 2 different things. So do you want me to kind of go over the application process and kind of what they need to have?
The requirements, like you think that's essential requirements that probably they're not aware of.
Okay, so there's lots of application requirements that they need to get in, but the key things that I think that a prospective student should think about is, 1, English language proficiency. So obviously when you're a paramedic, you're working directly with the public your whole career. So it's really important that you can communicate with them because that's essential. That's how you can communicate their needs. Another requirement that we have is students have to be eligible to obtain a Class 4 license here in Nova Scotia. So the Class 4 license enables them to drive an ambulance. Now we help them get their Class 4 license, but they have to be eligible for it. So if you come to Canada and you switch your license over to a Nova Scotia one, it has to either be a Class 5 or a Class 5R that it switches to. If it isn't, then you're not eligible for the Class 4.
Okay, so if they are eligible for Class 5, does it mean they have to be here already for a year?
It depends on different countries and different places, and also different how long they've been licensed in their country. So I always direct students to call Access Nova Scotia just to ensure that they know for sure that they can. Because if they've had their license for, 10 years in their country, that may help them get their license here in Nova Scotia faster than someone who maybe didn't have their license in their country. So that's one thing to always really check on before, because driving an ambulance is one of the main things that they'll do kind of in their profession. We do have educational requirements as well. So on a transcript, if they're international transcripts, we do need them validated. And what we're looking for on the transcript is an academic English, an academic math, and then one academic science. So physics, chemistry, or biology.
When you say validated, does it mean WES, those type of thing?
Yeah, so on our website, all this information is directly on our website. We try to put as much information out there so that the applicant has all the resources they need. So we have a website that students can go to, and it has companies like WES and also ICAS and other companies that they can utilize in order to validate. I know that WES sometimes can take a little long, so there are a couple other ones that we do accept as well.
That's good. In terms of the English, and I do know that you have partnered with a language school.
Yes. So we do have 2 language school partners right now, which is also listed on our website. And if you complete their level 7 or their university pathway, then we will accept that as language proficiency. One thing to always consider though is that at the end of your program, when the student goes in for licensure, they will test them again. So they will test them through an IELTS test or something like that to make sure that their English is up there. So although they meet our standards, they still need to meet those standards by the end of the program.
What is the standards for before they get licensed, the IELTS requirement?
Yeah, ours is a 6.5 across the board. So in each band, it has to be a 6.5 and a 6.5 overall. Would have to check on the one for copper. I do know that they're going to be reevaluating it just because we have so many newcomers coming to the to Nova Scotia, and I think that's something that they are trying to reevaluate. I do know it's a high one, but I do think that if a student was to do the program, maybe try an IELTS test, they would be able to kind of work on their skills while they're in the program. So by the end of the program, they should have that
and I think
score.
It's very necessary
for
the job.
Yes, and they would want that too. Exactly.
Is there any exemption for English language if they graduate from Canada?
Yeah, so we do have an exemption. So if they have studied in Canada already for at least a year in an English program, we will allow them to be exempt from our language policy.
And you've mentioned about the Nova Scotia immigration program for PR. And we know that after the international students, they graduate, they cannot get a post-graduation work permit from the institution because it's a private one. So they need a job offer to get to the provincial nomination and then get a work permit.
Correct.
So how is your institution, how does it support those students to streamline this pathway?
I think that's still under works for us, just as we're so new with our international program and with the graduates in demand stream. So I think that has room to be developed, of course. We are always looking to support our students in any way, but I think that what's really helpful is that international students are eligible to get the paramedic tuition bursary. So that bursary is given out through the operating company, and if they are accepted for the bursary, then they sign on a return to service agreement for 4 years. So they must work for them for 4 years after they finish the program. So that kind of gives them that job offer already to kind of go down that stream.
Okay, so you mean that when a student is accepted by your institution, they have opportunity to get a job offer in advance?
Yeah, so kind of like that. So they have the opportunity to apply for the bursary, which is the funding that they could receive for it.
Yes.
And if they are selected to receive the funding, then in return to service agreement, which is essentially a job offer for them once they finish the program.
So the funding means that they don't need to pay any tuition?
Yeah, so the funding for international students, basically how it works is the bursary, they stated that they will fund the international student as much as they would a domestic student. So there is a small fee for international students still, just because the program costs are a little slightly higher, but it's nothing crazy, and the rest is paid for. So they just have a small payment in the beginning and then a small payment 6 months later.
Okay, so what is the eligibility to get this bursary?
So the bursary isn't actually run through the college, it's run through the operating company. With their application, they ask for mostly the same things that we ask for. So they have to be eligible for a Class 4 license. They have to be living here in Nova Scotia. So most international students aren't living here yet, but they will be when they're taking the program. So they'll accept that. They have to have a clean record, so they'll have to produce a criminal record report or an international police report, things like that. It's nothing crazy, nothing huge. They also will have to do an interview with them just to make sure that they are employable. I don't think it's anything crazy. I think it's just a short interview just to make sure that everything kind of aligns and fits, and that's pretty much it.
I know that you have 11 international students currently.
Correct.
How many of them having or on this program, the bursary program?
They're all on the program.
All on the program. So what do you think make them successful to get this bursary?
I think just kind of being themselves, being genuine, and I think that all of these students who have been admitted to the program, if you're successful with us, I feel like you will be successful with them, because especially through our process too, we're looking for people who have a genuine attraction to this field and want to help others, want to, you know, help the healthcare system in any kind of which way they can. And I think that that just is what kind of gives them that glow factor, I guess. So what is the commitment the students need to meet after their graduation? I know that there's 4-year job offer, and is there any location requirement? Like, where are they placed? Yeah, so technically they can be placed anywhere in Nova Scotia. So obviously emphasis is on the locations that need the workers, so more rural locations or things like that. So typically how they choose it at EMC, I believe, is they have a list of kind of open jobs and locations, and I believe the student, now employee, would kind of be able to pick their top 3, and then they would kind of be divvied out that way. But there's always room for them to move to a new location after 6 months or maybe after a year. There's always room for that to happen. So even if they didn't get their most desirable location in the beginning, they can kind of go work in there for a couple of months and then move to a new location perhaps if that comes available. But I think that they're very transparent in saying these are the locations that we have availability in.
Okay. So I'm not sure if the question is too sensitive. Oh, do you know about the salary of the job offer?
I don't personally know the salary. That would be more of a question for EMC, but they are unionized, and I know that they, you know, do support their employees in that way. So I would have to find that information out. But yeah, they did just get a pay increase. I know that.
What if the students didn't commit for 4 years? What would happen?
Yeah, so I believe if they don't commit for the full 4 years, then they would have to essentially pay back the money that was funded for them. Yeah, and that would be something that EMC would have to kind of work out with them. Yeah.
I'm sure this program will support international students financially and career-wise.
Yeah, we try to kind of support our international students in any way that we can. And so if they're struggling with payments or if they're struggling with life or anything like that, we try to be very close with all the students that attend here. And I think that because we're such a small college rather than a huge university or things like that, we have the ability to create that kind of family-like atmosphere. You know, I always check on the international students. I always go back there and like see how they're doing or send them an email and just make sure that they're on the right track. So they can definitely will get abundant support from us.
It's fantastic. So about the licensing, I know that each student, before they can start their work, they have to get a license. How does this program help them to get the license?
So our program is actually taught on a national standard and rather than a provincial. So because it's a national standard, the COPR, which is the licensing exam that they would take here in Nova Scotia, is the national exam. So our program is basically set up to get them ready to write that test. So everything that we teach and how we teach it is going to be how they present it on the exam. So they'll be ready to be able to do that.
So do you find it's a hard exam? Is there any students graduate from your school didn't pass the exam?
I think we actually have a very high passing rate on the COPR, so that's really lovely. But of course there are people who maybe don't test well or do well with those types of tests. I believe it is a multiple choice test, but it changes every year. So some years it can be harder, some years it can be easier, and so on. So it really just depends on the person, how they test and those types of things. But a student has 3 attempts at the test. So if they don't pass the first time, then they definitely have another attempt, and if they don't pass that one, they have one more, and so on. So hopefully by the 3rd they're able to get it, but we usually don't have students go that route. They usually pass the first time around.
So Melissa, what's the final advice you'll give to international students who wants to pursue the PCP career in Nova Scotia?
I think that the piece of advice that I can give is just make sure that this is the type of career that you want to go into. It's a very rewarding career. You're saving lives essentially. You're meeting people in their worst situations, and you're kind of being that hero for them. But it's also a very hard career. You're going to see a lot of different things. You're going to see the community in a different way. And so I think it's very important to make sure that you're mentally and physically fit to be able to do those types of things. But if that's your passion, helping others and being supportive and kind of medicine is your passion, then this is something you should definitely come into. And there's always room to grow as well. We have what we call the ACP program, which is the Advanced Care program. So once you're a PCP for a couple of years, that's something that you can move into. So there's always progression as well. So my advice is just to make sure that it's the right job for you before coming. The program can be a little intense, but it's really fun and very quick. I think it will be a lasting career.
Thank you very much for the insight. It's incredible to have you here today.
It was so lovely to meet you.
If you have any question about this program, and you can contact me. 如果你们有问题的话，可以给我留言。谢谢。
Perfect. Yay! Oh my gosh, I was like shaking the whole time. I'm like, I don't even know. Yeah. I was like, I don't know. Oh yeah. Yeah.